So these are 5 things I really want to dive in on the personal side before we really get into a lot of on the business side. The first is that I want you to remind yourself every single day of your big picture, every single day. So I know that we're coming into fourth quarter very, very soon. People are going to start thinking about what are our goals? What is our vision for 2025? I want you all to do that every day. You shouldn't just be doing it once a year or once a quarter or once every 6 months with your team, with yourself, with your family. Every single day, I want you to put it somewhere that you see it. Whether it's in the closet where you're getting dressed, if it's in the car where you are, if it's in the office that you are every single day, wherever that is, you be very clear, 5 minutes to really focus on that big picture. Just really reprioritizes your mind, reprioritizes your vision, reprioritizes every single thing that you're doing every single day. And I'm going to tell you, when you do that, you're very clear and concise about the decisions you make. You're very clear and concise about the time you spend, about the effort that you spend. You know, I'm sure you all have heard this a lot, that there's 20% of us in the industry that do 80% of the work. Or if you focus on the 20%, it makes up for the other 80%. I will be very honest with you. I've dug a lot into high performers. And if you can focus one day, I choose Friday, I know some of you choose Sunday, to think about your week ahead. And I want you to take 60% of your activities, and those should be needle moving activities. 60%, 60 out of the 100% should be needle moving activities. Well, Chanel, what are needle moving activities? Well, that depends on what your vision is. That depends on what your big picture is. You all are getting this now, right? So if you're really clear and concise about what your big picture is, then you're going to be very clear and concise when you sit down for that hour before you start your week, where you should be spending your 60%. The fact of the matter is that if we all try to spend 80% of our time on everything that moves the needle, we're just not gonna, we're going to get burnt out, in my opinion. I think you're going to have administration things you need to do. You're going to have to do showings. You're going to have to work on certain open house activities. You're going to have to meet with your team. Yes, these are important things. They may not overtly move the needle for you, but if you only focus on 60% of those activities to move the needle, that will exponentially shift your business in ways that you cannot even imagine. If you remind yourself every single morning what your big picture is, that will exponentially change your life, as opposed to, well, it's September, October. I guess we should start looking at what our goals are in 2025. And then you look at it in January. And then before you know it, it's July. And then it's September, October again. You're like, right, what was my big picture? What's my vision? What's my goal? Every single day, I want you all to do that. The third thing that is very important for me to do, because otherwise I get overwhelmed, and overwhelmed is not a space that I enjoy being in, is that there are 3 things that I prioritize every single day that I get done before 1 p.m. It's that simple. What are the 3 things that I'm going to prioritize that I'm going to get done by 1 p.m. every single day? This is not only about what you do, but more so about what you don't do. Because have you ever spoken to someone, or perfect example, I did this last week and I was losing my mind. I was answering phone calls when I got up in the morning. I was responding to emails. I was putting out fires. Before I knew it, it was 12:30 in the afternoon. And I thought, where did all my time go? Well, the fact of the matter is that I wasn't very clear and concise about the 3 things. Firstly, what my big picture was, what the 60% of activities are that are moving the needle. So I allowed my time to get away from me. And because of that, I'll be honest with you, I didn't get those 3 things done by 1 p.m. How good does it feel when you get those things that are just so difficult for you personally to get done, if you just knock them out? Like, it to me is a game changer. So just when you're working on that weekly schedule, I want you to really prioritize those things that happen. And then I want you to choose 3 things every single day that I want you to knock out by 1 p.m. So PQO, some of you, let me ask, does anybody know what PQO means? No, okay. So it's prolific quality output. Prolific quality output. This is something that high performers really focus on. This is something I focus on. It's what Nate focuses on. It's what Austin focuses on. It's the things that we need to do to move the needle the most. These are our PQO items. These are the things that move the needle the most. We all are high performers to a certain extent, or you wouldn't be on this right now. But what are the things that move the needle the most? I will tell you, you all complicate life. You complicate everything all the time. Keep it simple. Just keep things simple. Simplicity is the gift to all things. It does not need to be complicated in order to be achieved at a high level. Somewhere, somebody told you that the more complicated you make something, the higher you're going to achieve or the better you're going to be. It is the exact opposite, friends. The simpler you make things, I'm going to get really fired up right now. The simpler you make things, I will tell you, the higher you will achieve. The clearer your vision is, the better and clearer your big picture is, the more you're going to move the needle on things. Just keep it simple. Do not overcomplicate things, because when we overcomplicate things, guess what happens? We start making excuses as to why we can't actually do them. And then nothing happens. So that's a really, really big one. Breaks is something that we don't do enough of because we're constantly running all the time, right? So I highly recommend, this has been difficult for me, but I am holding myself accountable, and I like to hold you accountable too. I really want you to take a break every hour, not every 3 hours, every 4 hours, every hour. You should take a break 5 to 10 minutes every single hour that you're working. That means standing up, walking around. Take a break. That doesn't mean if you're away from your computer, you then pull out your phone. That doesn't count as a break, my friends. That doesn't count. That means completely shutting down, because your eyes get very tired when they're looking at a screen. Your brain needs a rest. Your brain needs to refuel. You can't actually accomplish things at a high level if you're constantly running all the time. That's called burnout. 5 minutes is a game changer. Nate, Chevron, yes, sir.
There was some good stuff going on in the chat, Chanel. And so just kind of talking through the 5 different things that you bulleted out. Really good. You know what? Like I want to try to get some focus for the group here. You know, because there's definitely across the board, a lot of us would probably have the 3 same things that we want to get done within a certain time frame. Right. You know, some different, obviously, according to your big picture and what it is, but let's call it that 60%, those 3 things. There's probably a lot of alignment. So I'd like to talk through that a little deeper if we could.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. Ost, you were asking some questions in the chat. What were you finding just from people, like what their responses were?
Yeah, I asked them, what do we need to do before 1 o'clock? I said, hurry up and give me the answers for Ask Chanel, and she tells us. Yeah. So then the answers started to come. Lisa, Lisa, what's one thing we do in the morning?
15 minutes of financials.
So there's one. So there's no right or wrong answers, I wouldn't say, to this. They're all based off of you. We had Jim was in there. I asked the group, Chanel, what's some stuff we can get done by 1 o'clock? So we had Jim, we had some I apologize. Let me go back here and look. We talked about lead gen. Now we had multiple different forms of lead gen get communicated in the chat. Just to let you know, that's all lead gen. So when we talk about doing this, follow-up note cards, proactive calls, like that's all in my world, we're bucketing that as lead gen. Okay. We had personal growth time. Once again, I might have said that. So Chanel, what else could be missing in the morning before 1 o'clock when you say 3 things before 1? What else comes to mind?
So I think everybody's cadence is a little different. You all know I'm a lark. I'm not an owl. So my creative time happens in the morning because that's when I'm clearest. So I take time in the morning for an hour to be very mindful about my vision and what I'm doing. So I am moving the needle on some very big things in my life right now. And if I do not build in that time to work on those things creatively, especially before 1 p.m., my brain just doesn't work the same after 1 p.m. It just doesn't. By 1 p.m., 6, 7, I've been up for 8 hours. So it just doesn't work the same way. And so that's one thing that I take the time to do. My health is very important to me right now. And it's definitely something that I do before 1 p.m. because otherwise the day just gets away and I just don't feel the same and I don't function the same. So that's another big, big one for me.
I'll say this, and don't make fun of me, but I drive a Tesla. And so one thing, some of you guys might not like Teslas, and here we go. But one thing I can tell you, Teslas are really fast. And I love just slingshotting that thing around like a little toy. Okay. If you drive a Tesla, you know what I'm talking about. Even the slow ones are too fast. I look at my Tesla's battery like I look at your battery during the day, which means you start off on full and you go to E. And I think you need to be very aware of what activities you're putting in when you're on full and what activities you're putting in while you're on E. What I do not do is drive my Tesla like a slingshot when I'm on E. In other words, I'm not killing my battery doing all these crazy great things. I call it great, but I'm doing that when my battery's full. So you heard Chanel talk about creative time. That's like taking your battery and just going like this with it. It requires good energy. It requires focus, energy, going to the gym a lot of times. What are the things that you're doing while your battery's full compared to what are you doing when your battery's empty? Okay, there's some good ones Lisa just put in the chat. I would be happy to go show you a house at the end of the day. I do not want to go to the gym at the end of the day personally because I'll probably never go. And showing the house there's accountability. I also, when I'm at the gym, I want to focus on me, my vision. What am I doing? Who am I becoming? All those things that I need to slow down and think about. So for whatever it's worth, think about your battery in the beginning of the day. It's full and you can do different things when it's full, like some really great things. But as it goes on E, you got to watch your activities.
I agree. Thank you, guys.